Afternoon again, and welcome to this workshop jointly organized by the NFS Plus and ENSMOV Plus project. Today we'll be dealing with energy savings potential for policymaking, and more specifically in the context of the Energy Efficiency Directive, we will have 4 presentations providing different perspectives on how to assess or how to develop data that can be used to assess energy savings potentials. And I think that will provide a very complementary overview of how the different studies or data on energy savings potential can inform an effective policy making. We'll start with Christoph Wolter from the Danish Energy Agency and the Danish Technology Catalogues. Then Brian Fad Mathisen from the Aalborg University will present the key findings for the Synergies project. So these two ones are more related to the issues for implementing energy efficiency first. And then in the second part, we look more specifically at issues related to the context of Article 8 of the Energy Efficiency Directive, which is the member states' energy savings obligation. And we'll first have an overview of examples analyzed as part of the ENSMOV Plus project by Solentum from ATE. And then a specific study focused on electric motors presented by Robin Barkhausen from Fraunhofer ASAIS based on the EU-MORE project. Very quickly, why we thought it was interesting and important to do a workshop on this topic, and combining the two perspectives of energy efficiency first and Article 8. Looking first at energy efficiency first, one core part of this principle is to make a fair comparison between supply side and demand side options, possibly investment options or policies. And to do that, if you want a fair comparison, the very first step, or let's say the prerequisite, is to know well what demand options are available, how cost effective they can be, etc. So it means you need to do an assessment to provide data about these potentials. And from this perspective, key issues include what data are available, what are the scope of cost and benefits you can assess, and how reliable these estimates are. Now looking at Article 8 of the Energy Efficiency Directive, energy savings potentials are essential to define the target for the member state, and that was subject then to negotiations between the member state, the Commission and the Parliament. And it's also then essential for the member state to target their policy measures and to support effective policy design. Issues here include is there enough achievable potential? So we can discuss that later. Where is the public intervention needed the most? And you can translate that in other words, something like where can energy savings be additional? As you know, that additionality is a key principle for Article 8 EED. I will not take more time because I know that the presentation are super interesting, so I don't want to spoil the time. Just reminding where you can find more information on both projects. We will put the link in the chat. And to inform you, also, you probably know already the online platform of the ENSMOV Plus project dealing with Article 8 of the EED, and there will soon be a complementary platform similar, but on energy efficiency first, that should be available early 2025, so stay tuned. That's it for my introduction. And now I'm very pleased to introduce to you Christoph Wolter from the Danish Energy Agency, who will share the Danish experience with developing the technology catalogues. Christoph, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jean. Hope you can see my slides now.
Yes, we see your slide. Perfect. And we hear you very well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the invitation, for the possibility to talk about the Danish technology catalogues that we are publishing as part of the Danish Ministry for Climate, Energy and Utilities. The Danish Energy Agency is within the ministry, one agency, and yeah, I'm representing the subdivision systems analysis, where we are doing analytical works on policy evaluations of our own government. As part of that, of course, you need robust assumptions for policy evaluations, for energy saving measures, for energy planning as a whole. And as part of that, we issue the technology catalogues, which is a public source of information. Some of you might use that already. Some of you might have heard about it. So this serves as an intro to the webinar and workshop. The ambition of the catalogues, you can see to the left of the slides, is 3 bullets basically, to have a uniform, commonly accepted and up-to-date basis for energy planning activities and evaluations of security supply, among others. We are using these data ourselves, but it's also system operators such as the Danish TSO Energinet, NCOE as well on a European level, but also other universities and consultancies and utilities that implement that data, and they use that as a common reference. So we kind of going back to the 80s basically, is the starting point of the idea of making catalogs like this and techno-economic data on energy technologies public and transparent. Of course, in the 80s, it was focused on heating supply and afterwards as well power supply. In the wake of the oil crisis, when the first steps of the energy transition in Denmark with commissioning wind turbines has begun, as well as the focus on municipal heat planning back in the 80s, and then onwards the liberalization of the power sector made this data set very relevant. Of course, this data set, those 9 reports that we have right now, it's something that we have developed over time. It didn't come from one day to the next, but we see a big value for this for our own planning, but also see it being used in other institutions here in Denmark, but also further all around the globe, actually. I was saying there are several uses of it. From our perspective, it's of course within ourselves in the Energy Agency. This is basically the techno-economic input for our energy system models, which are both general equilibrium models, hourly dispatch models, some investments models, security of supply models. And in order to do that, of course, the data has to be fed in a uniform manner as well. Our own ministry, the political division of the ministry, is having similar models, looking at different prominent political initiatives at the moment, such as deploying CCS in Denmark, the sector of waste incineration that is under scrutiny, so to say, and several other implications that they draw our data from. I will have a slide that shows that, but of course the Danish Ministry of Finance is also using those data when it comes to assessments for public investment analysis and subsidies to be paid. That then our catalogs are an economic benchmark for the cost of certain technologies, and as well the development of cost over time. And as I was saying, several other institutions are using it as well, and we have actually established a network to talk about the ongoing development of the catalogs. Just to give you some examples of what that might entail, on the left side you see the figure, that the condensed figure of the climate status and outlook that we publish ourselves. It's 2023 data, so there's already updates. but it basically shows a frozen policy scenario from how the energy sector, how the energy system would develop over time if there were no more political initiatives to be introduced to benchmark the CO2 reduction that we would expect in 2030. And as you can see, it's yeah, there's a little bit of a gap left, but in order to do that, we need the catalog data to quantify these. On the right-hand side, there are some as some examples, some possibilities how to fill that gap. And as a disclaimer that I promised to deliver on that, those are private economic assessments for different possibilities of carbon mitigations. It is not a socioeconomic point of view, but while also in that respect, our data can be used, and you're welcome to to have a look at the outlook that is also published in English. Back to the catalogs as such that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to show you some numbers. I was saying we have established 9 different catalogs that correspond different parts, different sectors of the energy systems, and among those catalogs, we present data in a uniform way, in an easy way to do energy modeling activities. Part of that are over 100 technology chapters, almost 300 data sheets of specific technologies of different different sectors, different sizes of representative plants and trucks as well, infrastructure, the electricity and gas grid, and so on. So this is a big database to keep up to date. How we do that at the moment is by employing 7 full-time employees as part of our center, our subdivision of systems analysis. That is 65 employees in total. Those 7 people do not work full-time on it, but they have this catalog as part of the main work, and it's the main project. But we do work very much across the center. And to give you an idea of how we are keeping things updated with consultancy works as well is the budget figure that you see on the left. I would like to show you how the catalogs, what you can actually understand what that is. We basically divide the catalogs into 2 different parts. There's a qualitative part that is an actual technology chapter, part of a report that is being found online on our homepage that describes the given technology. It might be a solar energy plant. It might be a heat pump. It might be a hydrogen truck in a uniform manner across the catalogs, focusing on input-output streams and efficiencies of the energy streams. It gives you an idea of the technology readiness level and comes with some examples of technologies employed in the real world, of course in a Danish context, but also very much based on corresponding European projects as well. And the core part is the projection of data, projection of performance and cost, which we then quantify in the technology data sheets. That is our quantitative part. Well, we have a uniform division across the technology spanning technical and operational data. Operational meaning also flexibility of operation of a given plant, for example, but also environmental data in the operation, and of course the financial cost figures, which of course is almost the most interesting things. And this is surprised by an overall guideline that sets the scene and gives the system scope definition. and define standard sizes of the plans in order to make the descriptions consistent across the board, across the whole energy system in the end. Just to show you very direct, this is how the report looks like. This is really basically a report. You can go in and also from a generalist point of view, understand the technology a bit further with onshore wind as an example here. But of course, the core also for modeling purposes are the data sheets that are basically built up like this here. We have data as of now, but then projected to 2050, of course, in the interest of climate targets. The projection is being done to 2050. And what you see on above the dashed line is parameters that are uniform, the ones I mentioned, uniform across the board for the technologies, but we do also have technology-specific data on non-uniform parameters that are necessary to describe a certain technology. That might be the wingspan and the development of which of a wind turbine, which has an effect on the capacity factor and the full load hours you might expect of it further down the line. I was mentioning the institutional setup around the catalogs. We do realize that we can only, well, really present the data in a meaningful way if we receive meaningful data. Of course, we're a public agency, and there are consultancies, technology experts that are actually working on new technologies, on demonstration plans, and we do work together with them as part of a representative advisory group that we meet with regularly in order to prioritize which of the ongoing descriptions that represent might not be relevant, or might not be, well, both relevant, but also might not be up to date anymore. So instead of coming with an annual report at a certain point in time, we do this ongoing work on refining our data and keeping up with market evaluation and checking which sections of this huge data set has to be adapted. The actual work on a specific chapter is being done in collaboration with a consultancy to also ensure objectivity in data preparation, also from our own point of view. We don't want to end up being being the entity within the government, within the ministry, making our own assumptions and then having effect on the expected results of subsidy payments. So we have this objectivity coming from both sides, as typically energy consultancies as the median part. Of course, they are in contact with technology experts in order to provide data, and as part of the writing of the reports, we do send out draft reports for the wider public, usually while stakeholders that have expressed interest in collaborating with us on the technology data, but those are also sending those data onwards, so we kind of rely on the snowball effect. And with this quality assurance, we then refine our data and send it back to the public and issue it in a transparent manner on our homepage. I would like to give you some examples that you can draw from the data. Of course, the data as such is something that has to be used, something that has to be worked with. But we also do come out with some smaller briefs, some smaller notes on the essence of our work that sometimes is a little bit hidden in the reports in the many pages. So I wanted to show you an example on our latest update of the chapter for hydrogen production through electrolysis. We've done that in the course of 2023. We came out with it in early 2024, and as other references also have noted throughout the last years, with getting to know more about how an industrial electrolyzer plant actually works, there has been more parts of the industrial plant that has become relevant as part of the technical economic assumptions of the system. So, of course, we look at things based on real cost data. Of course, there are still some effects from raw material prices and inflation surges from the last year being part of that picture. But in essence, we could see that being able to define the scope of an electrolysis system in a better way, we realized that the costs were actually rising considerably for modeling purposes, at least. Part of this is probably due to previous references focusing very much on electrolyzer stacks, where you might see a big cost potential, but neglecting or not focusing too much on balance of plant systems. So this is something we have reflected in our cost data, which makes it relevant to really revisit the data every once in a while. Another example of where consulting locally representative data is what we found as part of our update on CCS technologies. We had to look at operational projects from the US, Canada, and Norway, but what we've seen as part of it is that there's significant economies of scale, and of course, on a policy paper, CCS might be very attractive, but it very much depends on the size in the given markets. And for the Danish industry relevance, which basically boils down to cement production and coupling CCS with biogas plants, where we're on the low capacity level, which has an effect on the cost we can expect on that, and from a policy perspective also on the subsidies necessary if you want to promote this technology. I would like to round off my presentation with giving you an overview of the outreach that we have gotten by now. It's very much based on that we ourselves have 25 government-to-government partnerships with other national energy ministries and authorities, where we promote the setup and issue similar local technology catalogs in that respective context, but also our collaboration with academia, showing that academia with their own collaboration with international universities helps in spreading these data, and makes it very much of a benchmark, at least in Europe. So I hope this sets the scene for the rest of the workshops, and if there are any immediate questions to it, I would be happy to respond to some of them.
Thanks a lot, Christoph. It does really well set the scene. I think it was very interesting in many aspects, but what I will take from my side is the fact that it is public and transparent, and that's super important in the context of debates, discussions on scenarios, setting targets, etc., where these kind of data are the major inputs, where after that you can draw your assumptions and so on. And the way also it is developed with regular contact exchanges, the advisory group, I mean, the different exchange you have with stakeholders, but you mentioned also the international cooperations with university. I think that's super interesting in Europe because, as you mentioned, for many technologies, we have European markets rather than national markets. So most probably what is studied by you is also relevant, at least for neighboring countries and probably for most European countries. So there is a lot to learn, I think, from this experience. And maybe a first question is, the file that is public and transparent, do you see a benefit in terms of legitimacy of the catalogs you produce? You mentioned that, for example, it's recognized and used by the Ministry of Finance.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the strongholds of the catalogs, I would say, to make these data publicly available, and also to make draft data available, and being able to challenge the assumptions that some stakeholders might give, in order to then do something about the problems with bias that you might have if you talk to one group, maybe one advocacy group, one interest organization that would like to push a certain technology. So yeah, this makes it very much a both transparent but also quality assured piece of work. Of course, we also do collaborate with universities. They should not be biased in the first place. But also from that point of view, we try to accommodate both an academic point of view, but also a hands-on approach, and hands-on meaning both in terms of hands-on policy evaluation, but also hands-on planning for utilities in the end. That also draw on these data. And as one example, I can maybe add that as part of the municipal heat planning in Denmark, the technology catalogs are actually part of the law that needs to be consulted if there's no other representative data for a specific plant available in the process. So that gives you another sense of importance of this data.
And it links very well to my second question, because you even emphasize the importance that this type of catalogs may have in planning processes if it's, let's say, mentioned as the default source of data. Do you have the same for other demand-side options like building renovation, for example? Do you mentioned that you're part of a larger team on long-term planning, or in other units of the Danish agency? Do you have similar data sets for these type of actions?
Well, we do have similar data sets, but not in this system encompassing scope, I would say. And when it comes to energy savings or energy consumptions, part of our data is of course also the heat pump and the heat boilers as part of the parts that you could use as part of the heat planning. But also when you think about electric vehicles, if you remember the slide on the negative cost that electric vehicles have in a policy perspective, this is something that has been one of our last updates, which kind of goes beyond the boundary of what we have scoped so far, which it has been very much based on energy or electricity and heat production, transports and infrastructure, maybe with some storage, and then the consumption. So it's kind of getting beyond that scope by now, which requires that the system scope definition is very much in place. So that has been some longer piece of work in order to agree on that. But that has been done in the same way, talking to the relevant stakeholders and making them part of that work in order to result in the report and the data.
Now, I guess that's also something for the energy efficiency community to think about, that we should also be available to provide the data so that similar catalogs should be developed for more demand side options. You mentioned heat pumps and boilers, but there are many more that that could be considered and promoted. Now, thanks a lot, Christoph.